So I'll be talking about colonialism and indirect rule system. Colonialism is, for me, is defined as the imposition of a more developed culture over a less developed one, which is backed up by a lot of things: expansionism and economic adventurism. So the European capitalist, uh, the European capitalist countries established political, economic, and military and cultural hegemony over other parts of the world, which was initially at a lower level, therefore could not resist domination. So when we talk about colonialism, we're talking about how stronger countries subjugate, oppress weaker countries. So so it was the idea of creating a new protected market for industry by seizing colonies abroad, and this was so in the late 19th century. However, in the early 19th century, colonies had been thought of mainly places like Canada, Australia, New Zealand. Later, the meaning of the word colony assumed another dimension. Some writers now see it as colonies of exploitation. You can call it whatever you want to call it. So colonialism for me is defined as the way, the process, the manner in which a stronger nation tries to subjugate, impose, uh, use their power, economic, political, religious power over a nation that they feel is weaker, unexposed, lacking direction. So let's quickly talk about a lot of things happen. I'm going to take colonialism as a topic on the table. I'll focus on indirect rule. So the indirect rule is a system of administration in which the British colonial government adopted as colonial policy in dealing with the people by using traditional rulers, or let's say traditional political institutions. The British, under this system, used traditional rulers or traditional institutions to rule the people. Now, indirect rule system was introduced in 1912 by Frederick Lord Lugard. Now, there is something we now call native authority. Native authority was an institution of local administration of indirect rule system in British West African countries. So, you may want to look at indirect rule system and the features of indirect rule system. We have uh, let's say the police and the prisons. So for during the indirect system was known for a period where native prisons and native police were utilized in the system. Another is native courts. Native courts were also used for administration of justice, collection of tax. The whites made use of natural agricultural produce. In fact, this collection of taxes actually led to a lot of things. Some of them is the Warwick tax crisis of 1927, about Merit of 1929. So cost of administration. The cost of administration then was not high because those involved were paid peanuts. Another is respect for traditional rulers. They were respected and given exalted position in the administration, which made it easy for the colonialists to operate and rule. So British officials, they were to guide where need be, they were to enforce law, they were to enforce regulation. For instance, residents and district officers. So there was another thing we call respect for culture. The cultural values of the people were respected by the British officials because they were ruling, but it was through the traditional rulers. So they honored, they valued the traditional institutions, not because they wanted to, but because they were used as a bait for the people. So we have custom and traditions, because the custom and tradition of the people also during the period played a very significant role. Then traditional system, traditional rulers. So if you are asked what are the main features of indirect school system, you say the native courts, the police and prisons, cost of administration, British officials, respect for the culture, custom and traditions, traditional rulers, traditional system of government, and a whole lot. So let's look at the reason for the adoption of the system of indirect rule. So one of these is the lack of British personnel. Uh, the system had few British personnel for so many reasons. Some of them for reasons like malaria and all. So they could not rule directly. Then another is insufficient fund. So there was no sufficient fund from the British government to engage British officials directly for direct administration. So they actually opt for indirect. So poor climate. So like I said, poor climate condition also was a major reason. There was a mosquito in Africa, and many people say that the white man saw Africa as his grave, so they don't want to come. So the next is to satisfy their economic needs. The colonialists wanted to create market for their goods and to encourage West Africans to produce those raw materials. That was insane. So another is the role and position of traditional rulers. So the British saw that they saw the uniqueness and positions occupied in the administration before the introduction of the indirect rule. So they saw the role that traditional rulers played. They saw that the people obeyed them, people listened to them, people revered them, and then because of some of these reasons they they opt out for the process. So the use of traditional rulers and their institutions, the sources of these systems. Now, the one of that introduced the system, the policy was introduced in India, Uganda, and the fact that the policy succeeded there was enough proof for them to test run it in Africa and in Africa in Nigeria. I mean, so poor communication system. The system was less expensive. British officials, stable political system, language barrier, large expanse of land, and a whole lot. Some of these are things that we also need to take note while we discuss the indirect rule system.